Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be a Q&A. I'm very excited. But before we get started, I wanted to just say thank you to everyone that has commented on my videos so far. It's because of your comments that we have today's video. So what I've done is I've gone through and looked at all of the recent comments within the past couple months and taken the most common or frequent questions or questions that I thought y'all might want me to answer on camera. So I've gone through, and some of them I inferred a little bit maybe as to what you were asking, but I have a list compiled here on my computer. So I thought we could just go through one by one. I think there's about 12 questions, and we're gonna answer the big question, how much do OTs make? But that's gonna be for last, obviously. You know, save the best for last. If you don't wanna watch the video, just fast forward to the end. Okay, let's get started. So the first question is, what prereq should you take in high school / college to prepare for OT school? And they actually listed all of the courses that they were taking, which included medical terminology, psychology, anatomy and physiology, biology, and chemistry. So to my knowledge, I don't think chemistry is a prereq anymore for OT school. I could be wrong. Double check that. As for anatomy and physiology, if you have the opportunity to take a cadaver lab, I would definitely do that. My A&P class in undergraduate didn't have that option, but I actually did have that opportunity in OT school. They offered a cadaver class as an extra class during the summer. So it was additional time and money, but they offered it to PTs and OTs. And they were actually left over from the cadavers that the nursing school used. So the cadavers had really already been like chopped to pieces, but it was just a great experience because you can learn and memorize how muscles work, but until you like get in there and start moving them yourself and you see their wrist go boom, it's just different. It just gives you a whole different perspective on human anatomy and biology and all that sort of thing. So if you can do a cadaver lab, I highly recommend it. Next question says, why did I choose home health and or pediatrics? Pediatrics, I had a fieldwork 2 rotation, was my last one. I was offered a job during that rotation and I took it because it was the easiest thing to do. In all honesty, I didn't want to have to start over, like do a bunch of job applications, start somewhere new, learn all their different processes. It was just easier to stay at where I was comfortable. I already knew how everything worked. I knew their documentation system. I was able to keep a lot of my clients, and so as a student, I just kind of transferred all my clients and started seeing them as an occupational therapist. So it was really just the easy thing to do. As for home health, I kind of got burnt out, unfortunately, in outpatient peds, and it was really just a conflict of scheduling. My lifestyle just didn't mesh with the hours. I was working late. I would get off at like 7, 6 o'clock on Fridays. And just getting home late, it just didn't really allow me to do the things that I wanted to do. So that's how I ended up going into home health. Long story short, I had a really good friend of mine that had started working in early intervention, and she got me the job, and I never looked back. It was one of the best decisions I ever made. It was one of the hardest decisions, but honestly one of the best. It's never easy to leave a job where they've put so much time and effort into helping you, into mentoring you, and then just be like, peace. So yeah, it was really hard, but again, best decision I ever made. Don't be afraid to quit. This question was a little bit general, but they said, are there online programs for distant students in the healthcare field? So they were asking about healthcare in general, not really specifically OT. To my knowledge, there aren't any online or fully online occupational therapy or occupational therapy assistant programs. I would say I wouldn't recommend programs that offer you a degree in 18 months or online courses in 6 months and you get your nursing degree. Honestly, I feel like those programs aren't offering the best education, which to me puts patients at risk because these medical professionals didn't go to maybe highly accredited schools, and therefore they didn't learn everything that they needed to appropriately. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't want a nurse that went to school for 18 months and now they're about to like stick me with a needle. I think I would want someone that went to a really good accredited program and that took the time to learn everything properly. But that's just my opinion. Next question says, did you find it hard to pass the OT exam? Yes. Yes, I did. It was a very stressful time in my life. we did it, we passed, we moved on, we don't ever look back. Next question says, would someone who is barely trying to study for the field have to shoot for a doctorate instead of a master's? By the year 2027, all occupational therapy programs will be required to be doctorate level. So they made that basically just to allow schools to create doctorate level programs. And so 2027 is the cutoff year for them to get accredited for that program. But I'm sure that there will be schools that do it before that time. But as of right now, if you were to apply to OT school this year, you would probably most likely graduate with a master's. To my understanding, there's not going to be any difference in the application process. It's still going to be an entry-level doctorate, so you'll still get your undergraduate degree and then apply to OT school. You'll have to have your bachelor's and all the same prerequisites. It'll just basically be longer and more money to get your doctorate. Which actually relates to the next question, which says, will OTs make more money once it's a doctorate? Probably not. So I tried to do a little bit of research to see if the salary of physical therapists increased because they were previously masters as well, and then they changed to a PhD. And I believe their salary did go up a little bit, but I don't know if it was enough to offset the cost. The extra cost of tuition and the length of the program. So again, like OT salary may go up a little bit with it changing to a doctorate, but again, I don't know if that's going to offset the tuition and the extra time that it'll take to complete the degree. Honestly, I have no idea, but in my opinion, I don't think it's going to change that much. Next question says, what college did you go to? So I went to Texas Women's University at Dallas. Texas Women's University actually has 3 campuses, and they're all in Texas. They have a Denton campus, a Dallas campus, and a Houston campus, and all 3 have occupational therapy programs. Next question says, what was my undergraduate degree in? I actually answered this in a previous video, but I got my undergraduate degree in psychology with a minor in English literature. So I read a lot of Shakespeare, Canterbury Tales, basically a lot of reading. But yeah, I'm just weird like that. Okay, what do we got next? What do you think? I literally just copy and pasted these. What do you think the job market will be for OTs and OTAs? I'm guessing they're trying to ask like OT versus OTA, which was a frequent question that I got. Should I be an OT or OTA? What should I do? Unfortunately, I cannot answer that question for you. You need to decide for yourself. As of the job market, with just a quick Google search, I feel like there's more job opportunities as an occupational therapist. But again, that was with just a quick Google search in my area on like Indeed and Monster and all those standard job websites. But I would just recommend Googling occupational therapy jobs in your area. So if you live in Tampa, Florida, I would just like Google occupational therapy jobs and see what pops up. If you see that OTs are more in demand, maybe that might sway your decision. But that would be my recommendation, just to kind of Google and see what the job market is like in the area that you think you might be working in when you graduate. This next one is kind of specific, but I got this again a couple of times. And it says, would you recommend OT for someone who's 31 and still has to get, most, if not all their prerequisites, and they're going to be in college for 4 more years? So yeah, I got a couple of questions about like, oh, I'm going to be 30, you know. My opinion, if you become an OT at 30, you could work for 20 years, y'all. 20 years is a long time. You can work for 20 years, and if like you budget and save your money really well, you could retire at 50. 50! No one retires at 50. And 20 years is just a crazy amount of time. So try not to let time and age influence you too much. There were a lot of people that were going back to school for the second time in my class. A lot of second careers or people that had kids and then they went back to school and they were getting their degree to work. And they were going through OT school with families. I don't know how they did that. But yeah, don't let age influence you too much. You have more time than you think. I'm slowly realizing that. Hopefully I can convey that to you. You have more time than you think if you don't waste it. Okay, next question says, Do you have to work in a clinic or hospital before doing early intervention in homes with kids? If so, for how long do you have to do that, and were the hours very harsh? No, you do not have to work in a hospital before doing home health or early intervention. There's really no requirements for early intervention or home health. You don't have to work in a hospital. There are really no requirements other than being an OT that's licensed to do home health or early intervention. I did work in a hospital during my fieldwork rotations, and I will say I absolutely loved it. The hours were not harsh. I got off at 4:30 every day and loved it. So yeah, it probably depends on the hospital you're working at, but for the most part, you get off at the same time every single day. And we're to the final question. What is the average salary of a new OT grad? So, based on my personal experience and talking to all of my fellow OT friends, colleagues, I would say that the average salary for a new grad is between $60,000 and $75,000. Now again, everyone's always going to preface that with, it depends on where you live and it depends on what setting you work in, and that's all true. But if you just want an average, I would say between $60,000 and $75,000. And honestly, I would say that that goes for like, that's still applicable to someone that's been at OT for at least 5 years. We'll say the one caveat to that is working for a school district. School therapists tend to make a lot less because they're only working like 180 days out of the year. So you might see salaries in like $55,000, but that's only because they're like working half of the year. So a lot of therapists will choose to like do like PRN in the summer or something like that to earn extra money, or a lot of people just don't work and they hang out with their kids. So yeah, the one difference is like the school setting. So that's all the questions that I have here for y'all today. Again, thank you so much for commenting and asking me these questions. If you have more specific questions, leave them in the comments. And I think for the next Q&A, just leave the comments in this video and then I will answer them in my next Q&A. I don't know when that's gonna be. But yeah, just leave them in the comments. And if you want me to do a specific video on early intervention / home health, which is where I'm currently working, let me know in the comments as well, so I know if y'all want to go more in depth into that. I think I had one request about early intervention, and I'd love to dive into that a little bit more because it's very different. I feel like it's kind of like a niche setting, as is like the NICU. If y'all are interested, just let me know. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!